Hello guys, welcome to the next video on Android MySQL Database tutorial for beginners. In the last video, I have shown you how you can download and install a WAMP server and how you can create your first MySQL database using PHP MyAdmin and how you can write a PHP script to connect to your MySQL database. Now in this video we will see how we can create our first Android application which can interact with this MySQL database. So let's get started. Just fire up your Android Studio IDE and we are going to start a new Android project, and for example we will name it as MySQL project. Okay, so MySQL demo. Okay, and I'm going to click next and leave everything as default, blank activity and main activity, and finish. So now our project is created, and in this project, in this activity, what we are going to do is we are going to design a login activity, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to take some added text. So take a plain added text, for example for the person name, and take a password added text from here also. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to take one button and we will name the text of this button as login. Okay, so just write login button, and we can change the name of this button as for example btn login, right? And for the added text, what we are going to do is we are going to change the ID or of this added text as for example et et username. Okay, et username. And for the password field we are going to change its ID as et password. Okay, and I'm going to leave this username text as blank. So this is a simple design. We want to give a username and password, and when we click login, it's going to interact with our MySQL database, and then we want to validate our activity, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to go to our main activity.java file, and in here what we are going to do is we will just remove these two method here because we don't need it right now. And in here, first of all, at the top we will define added text variable. So just define added text and define two added text variable, one for username and one for password. So you can just say username et and the password et, right, for added text. Now what we are going to do is we will initiate these added text with our added text. So just write username is equal to, in the bracket we will typecast added text as we always do. So just write added text and then find view by id, and then r dot id dot your added text id, right? So our added text id was username, right? Same we will do for the password. So I will just copy it, paste it here, and this time I will take the password, and in here we will take et password, right? So just use et password here. Now what we are going to do is we will just once again go to our main activity.xml file, and in here go to text, and in the button in here we will define on click method. So just write on click, and let's say it's on login method. Okay, so we want to create a method called on login, when we press the button, we want to execute this method. So just write public void on login, and then in the parameters just pass view, and then once again view. And inside your method, what we are going to do is we will take these username and password and get the text from these added texts, right? So we will declare a string variable, string username is equal to our username variable, which is this one, dot get text dot toString. Okay, and same we will do for the passwords. So string password, and then this time we will take this edit text password, and then we will get the password from it and save it into a variable. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to validate our username and password, and for that we are going to create a new class, and we will name it as background worker. So let's create a new class here, and we will create a new Java class, and we will name it as background worker, and click OK. And we will extend this class with async task. Okay, so just extend this class with async task async task, and as a template parameter here we are going to give some dummy data types right now, and we are going to change them in future. So for example, void and void, and third also void. Okay, and now you can see it gives us this error, and when you click this bulb or alt enter, it will ask you to implement the abstract methods. So just implement this do in background method, and we also want to add some more method, for example on post execute and on pre-execute. Okay, so first of all, on pre-execute method we are going to add here, and then we will add on post execute, and third method we are going to add here is on progress update. Okay, and we also want to add a constructor here, because whenever we want to pass this username and password, we want to pass it using the background worker constructor, right? So first of all, what we are going to do is in the background worker class we will define a context variable here. So define a context and name it as context, and now we will define a constructor. So just write background worker, and as a argument we will pass the context of our class. Okay, we can name it as ctx, for example, right? So ctx. Okay, and then in here what we will do, we will just assign this context to our local context, right? So do it something like this. Now what we are going to do is we will go to our main activity.java, and in the on login method what we are going to do is we are going to create an instance of background worker class. So just write background worker, and then give the variable name is equal to new background worker, and it takes the context, right? If you remember, so context is this. Okay, and then we can just use this background worker variable and call a method called execute on it, and this will execute the background worker, right? So it takes some argument. So what we can do here is we can pass multiple argument here. right? So let's pass three arguments here. First is the username, second is the password, and third is type of operation we want to execute. Okay, so let's define a third variable, for example string type, and we will define this type as login for now. Okay, and then we can pass it as a first argument, for example, right? It's on you if you want to pass it as a third argument or the first argument. It's on you, but just remember which argument it is, right? Second is the username and third is the password, right? Now it's going to give you this error because you can see here these all three arguments are string, and in the background worker we have here only void. So we will just change this to string, and also this do it in background, this data type will be string also, right? So just change it to string. Okay, and then you can see the error will go. Okay, now in here do in background, what we want to do is we want to perform our post operation, and then we want to validate our username and password. So now inside your do in background method, what we want to do first is we want to extract the value of first argument, which is this type, which is login in our case, from this params, right? So what we can do is we can define a variable called string and name it as type is equal to, it's a params first index, right? So just write params at index 0. Okay, something like this, and this will give you the type, which is login, right? So now we can just evaluate this type, and if this type equals dot equals login, then we can move further, right? So this is login, and then inside our if statement we can write the code to post some data, right? But before that we want to define some URL to post to that URL, right? So if you remember, we have created this login.php file, right? And whenever we call this file using localhost, then it's selecting and performing the login function, right? So we will just call the same login.php file using a URL. So you can just write string and then login underscore URL, and then just write http colon slash and then your IP address. Now you may think that here you just need to write 127.0.0.1, which is localhost, or you have to write local host. But what Android team or Android people has decided, that if you want to communicate with the local host on your host machine using the Android emulator, then you need to use the IP, which is this one. So just use 10.0.2.2. It's a standard IP address to communicate with local host, right? And then your file name, which is login.php, right? And then enclose this into double quotes because it's a string, and then a semicolon. Now inside this if statement we will define a object of URL. You can just name it as URL is equal to new URL, and then as argument just pass our string URL here, right? Now first of all you need to import this URL from java.net.url. So alt enter, and then you need to enclose this URL into the try catch block. So you just need to add it into the try catch block. Okay, so just hover over here and then click this bulb and then surround with try catch block. Okay, now in here just below this we need to use HTTP URL connection class. You may be tempted to use HTTP client or post, but currently we use HTTP URL connection. So just write HTTP URL connection and give the variable name. For example, HTTP URL connection is equal to, and then you take this URL and then open connection, and you need to typecast this URL open connection to HTTP connection. So just use this typecasting method, something like this, and then you need to once again surround your code with try catch blocks. So you already had it, you just need to add one more catch clause here, okay, which is IO exception. Right now you can take this HTTP connection, and then you can set your request method. First of all, our request method will be post. It's something like a REST request, so you just need to write post here, and then you need to set some more method. For example, set output or do output and make it as true, and we also want to set do input. So just copy this, and instead of do output you just need to use dot set do input. Okay, now after that we are going to create an instance of output stream. So just write output stream and then give the name to your output stream, and we are going to get our output stream from our HTTP connection. So just take HTTP connection, get output stream, and then we will create an instance of buffered writer. Okay, so just call buffered writer and give the variable name buffered writer is equal to new buffered writer, and it will take an instance of output stream writer. So just write output stream writer, and the first argument it will take is our output stream, and the second argument is the type of output stream. So we are going to give here is UTF minus 8, right, and then close it, and then we are going to create our data URL which we want to post. Okay, so just write string and then our post data. So just write post underscore data, and then you will write URL encoder dot encode. So just call encode method here, which is first one, and then here you will just give the key and value pair, right? So let's say our key is username and the value is the username value, right? So what we can do here is, first of all, we can extract the value of username and password which we have passed using this background worker username and password, right? So we have already extracted this type using the 0th index of param, and then we can extract username and password using first and second index. So just take this and then paste it here, and this will be your user underscore name, for example, and the second will be the password, and then this will be our index 1 and this will be index 2, right? Now you can take the same name here, which is the key for your post data, and then what we can do here is First of all, we need to give the data type, which is UTF-8. So just write UTF minus 8 here, and then just write concatenation operator and in the double quotes equal to, and make sure that there is no space between them, right? Plus the value of username. So just copy the same thing and paste it here, and then the value is this one, right, without the double quotes, right? And then you just use your concatenation operator once again, and then in here we will add the AND operator, which is for joining the URL, right? And then in the next line what we can do is we can copy the same thing from here up to here, because we don't want AND right now because it's the end of the URL, and just close it. And this time this will be our password field, so just write password and password. So this is our post data URL. Make sure there is no space here and you have AND here. Now we just want to write this post data to the buffer writer, so just use buffer writer dot write, and this post data will be the argument for this, and then just use buffered writer and then flush everything. So just call flush, and then once again call this buffer writer, and we will close it. Okay, and we also want to close our output stream, so just use output stream dot close. Okay, now when you post some data on to the server, you can expect some result also or response also for the post request. And to read this response from the post request, what we can do here is we can once again define an input stream and then buffer a reader to get the response. So this time we will define input stream here. So just define input stream and then the variable input stream, and then we can get the input stream from the same HTTP connection. So just write get input stream, and once again we will define a buffer reader this time. So just write buffer reader, take the variable name is equal to new buffered reader, and as the argument new input stream reader, right? So just write input stream reader, and as an argument it takes this input stream and the type of data, and this time this data which we are expecting is of this type, which is ISO minus 8859 minus 1. And now once we have our response, we want to read it line by line and make our response from it, right? So we will just define two more variables. One is result, for example, and other is string line to read the line by line, and just write while. So just add a while loop, and we will read the line by line. So just use line is equal to buffered reader dot read line is not equal to null, so is not equal to null. Then we can add this line to the response, right, or the result. So just write result plus equals this line, so something like this. Okay, and something like this, and this all data should be in single brackets. So we are evaluating this, and we must also initialize these value with null, for example, or empty string. Okay, so just initialize line and result by empty string. Okay, and once our work is done, what we can do is we can close our buffer reader. So just close after your while loop the buffer reader, close, and then we will close our input stream from here. So just write input stream dot close, and then we will disconnect from our HTTP connection, right? So just write HTTP connection dot disconnect. Okay, and in here now we want to return the result which we have got, right? So just write return result. Now it's going to give you this error because our return type, if you can see here, is void here. So change this return type of this method do in background to string, and this will give you once again the error because we need to change this return type from here and here also string in the async task types, and also we need to change it here in here, right, in post execute, right? So just change it here also. Okay, now to show the login result we need a alert box or something like that. So what we can do is we can go at the top, and in here we can define an alert dialog and give a variable name, for example alert dialog, and then press alt enter to import alert dialog, and then we can initiate this alert dialog in here pre-execute method. Okay, so on pre-execute method you can just write, instead of this line, you can just write alert dialog is equal to new alert dialog dot builder. So just write builder, and then take the context which we have defined at the top. So this constructor is taking the context, right? So just take this context from here and pass it here, and then dot create. Okay, so just call a method called dot create and remove these brackets from here. Okay, and now you can also set some title to your alert box. So for example you can say login status. Okay, so this will be the title of your alert box. Now to show the result in the alert dialog, what you can do is you can go to on post execute method, and in here you can just remove this line and this string can be result, and then you can take your alert dialog and set the message here. So just write set message and just pass this result here, and then you can show the message which is coming from the server, right? So just write alert dialog dot show. Okay, so this will show the response of the server. So our code is almost done. What we need to do next is we need to go to our manifest folder here and go to Android manifest.xml file, and we need to give the internet permissions here above this application element. So just give this line of code to allow the internet permission. So just add user minus permission space Android name is equal to Android dot permission dot internet, and this will add the internet permission to your Android app. One last thing which is remaining is we need to edit our PHP files, right? So go to the connection.php which we have made, and if you already forgot where is the location of this connection.php, it's in your wamp folder in your C directory, and in www you can find login.php and con.php, right, which we have made in the last video. Okay, so first of all we need to remove this echo information from here. So just remove these lines of code from if condition till your end of your if condition, right, in the con.php. Okay, and save it. And in the login.php we have given this static information to login. So to have the post request received here, you need to replace this by dollar then underscore post, and then in the square brackets, so just use square brackets, and then your key name which you have defined in your Android code, right? So go to your background worker and once again check what is this key value, which is username here, right? The first key value, okay, and place it here. And in the same way we will just place the password key value from here, which is this one, in the double quotes, right? So this is value in the double quotes, right? So go here and change it here also, and save everything, and then run your code. Okay, so my app is running now, and I'm going to define the username and password which I have defined in the database, which is 123 and 123. So I will give this 123 and 123 here, and when I click login, it doesn't reply me. So this can be the problem sometimes if you have this 10.0.2.2 IP address defined here. In some cases it will work if you are connected with localhost, or if you want to connect with localhost. Otherwise, in most of the cases it will work. Otherwise, what you can do is you can open your command prompt. So just open your command prompt here, and then just write ipconfig here. So just write ipconfig and press enter, and it's going to give you your IP address of your local network. And as I can see in my case, the IP address here is 192.168.1.6 here, right? So you just need to search for wireless LAN adapter, or wired LAN adapter, and search for this IP address, which is the first address, which is 192.168.1.6, right? And then replace this by 192.168.1.6. In your case it can be different, so just see this value and paste it here. Once again we are going to run our app, and our app is once again running. So once again I will give 123 username and password, 123, and then click login. And now I can see this login success message, which is coming due to this line of code. Okay, I can just change this line, login success, and then some exclamation mark, and then some message, login success, and for example, welcome user, something like this, and then save it, and once again click the login message, and now you can see login success and welcome user here. Okay, so I know that this is coming due to this, and when I give the wrong username and password, it's going to give me login not success, which is this message. Okay, so in this way you can create a login page in your Android application using MySQL database. I will also give this code in the description, so you can copy the same code and paste it into your application and test it. Okay, so just click the link in the description and you will get the code from there. So please rate, comment, subscribe, and bye for now.